want to just thank again the mayor and the staff people in the mayor's office who helped with crafting this, including Aaron Radenberg. I would like to thank my colleagues on city council, Senator Metz and Representative Williams, and all of our community advocates who are here today, who spoke today. This concludes our program. I'd be happy to address a few questions, or we can speak off.
Is there anything different you think that might enable this to pass this year as opposed to years past?
Well, I think encouraging, sort of saying, look, we're ready for this in Providence, is for me steps to encouraging passage at the state level. I would refer to Representative Williams and Senator Metz for
Has the
state.
language changed in any way?
Has language changed in years past?
No, there hasn't been any language change at all. There's been changes of leadership and so forth.
And sometimes it takes time to increase awareness, and that's what we have to do with our colleagues. We have to increase the awareness of people outside, not only in our area, but outside our area, of the importance of this legislation. And once people do have a good heart, once they find out the injustice of the situation, it takes time sometimes, but many times we're able to convince people that this is the right thing to do, and that's what we try to do.
The other, if I may, the other piece of this is that, to provide a proof point. Typically, particularly, in the past, what we've seen is that there's a parade of horribles that the other side.
Can't hear you over there.
To add to this, there's also, this is a proof point, and it's an important proof point. Typically, the other side, issues a parade of horribles of, everything is going to collapse if something like this passes. But we've seen it in other jurisdictions, and if all goes well, we're going to see it here in Providence, and that's a proof point for the entire state. Not only does it not all collapse, but it creates stronger, more vibrant communities that we should want throughout our state.
Other questions?
What does enforcement look like from let's say the state doesn't pass it, but the city does? Like, how's that going to work?
Yeah, so enforcement lives with the Providence Human Relations Commission. And there's a variety of steps they go through. So some of it requires instances of non-compliance to come forward. So someone willing to say, yes, I was discriminated against because I presented a federal housing voucher. Chase, do you have anything to add to that?
That is so eloquent. Why would I add to it?
Can they issue monetary fines? Or how does it work?
Yes, I believe we can issue monetary fines, but in the long run, I think for now, the main thing is to make sure the community comes to us and then we establish the process. And that the community believes that we're actually going to enforce it before we talk about what the particular punishments are and getting into the policy weeds. It's more so about we are going to enforce it, and we need people to step up and say when it happens, how it happens, so we can follow up.
And it's also going to really require this kind of the same network and web that is coming together to support passage, to support education, to make sure that all of our neighbors know that this is law. And there is a private right of action in the anti-discrimination ordinance.
And I would say not only that, I started out of college, I started out in code enforcement. That was one of my first jobs out of college. For me, if I was in code enforcement and people kept denying Section 8 people, that would send up a red flag. I'd say, oh, their apartment must not be up to code. And so I'd be inspecting their apartments.
As a resident and as a renter, not having been denied, but knowing of others that have been denied, it's sort of when you go through the housing enforcement, you get what's called a scarlet letter. Okay, no matter if you win or lose, you're going to run up against landlords to say, oh, you've got this on your record. That's another point of discrimination. How do you protect those who have won and have rights, but are still discriminated against just because they've been in front of the courts?
That's Representative Shelby Maldonado. She has a bill in the House to seal those records. So if you take the landlord to court and you win, those records are going to be sealed. And she asked me to put companion legislation on the Senate side of her bill. So that's coming.
Is there anything anyone else would like to add in enforcement from the advocacy side, Jim or Claudia? All right, good.
explain, any of you, and if you can speak to it, just come up to the mic, conversations that you've had with landlords or realty companies, and what those conversations have been like? Have they been hostile in any way? Have any landlords said that they're up for this?
I've spoken to several landlords. One of it is they believe that Section 8, when you talk about Section 8 vouchers, it's pretty much the undesirables that hold those certificates. But the other thing, you have the group that are gentrifying the neighborhoods that are seriously, really working hard to not allow these voucher holders in the community. There was a group that put out, a real estate agency put out a piece, an advertisement of how beautiful the west, what they call the west side is. And what they presented was a snow white community with no one of color. When it was brought to their attention, within hours, they took it down. But it's issues like this that the community of color, the individuals that possess these vouchers are going through. And it's a totally unfair situation.
And thank you. And I would also say, in conversations I've had with people in my neighborhood, and I represent the West End and Federal Hill, it has been a lot of sort of uncertainty and a lack of knowledge about what we're actually talking about. So once we break down, right, we're not talking about anything over and above the law for people who are already renting. There is a process, it's used across the country. It becomes a lot more clear, so you just break down the unknowns, and for some segment, that's enough.
If I can just do one quick follow-up to that. This has been the fourth time that this has come about. So given all of that knowledge, I mean, it seems across the board, and especially in this aisle, that this is not the first time we're doing this, right? This is not the first time anybody has done this. So what is it now that's going to make it pass? You keep saying that we're going to make it known that it can work, but I assume that's happened 4 other times before.
Well, we haven't passed it in Providence as an ordinance before. So this is the difference. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's good old-fashioned lobbying. You look and see who's on the House committee, you look to see who's on the Senate committee where these bills have been placed, and then you find advocates not only from Providence, but all over the state. We have advocates all over the state. And you have people contact their senator and their representative and their city council person as to the importance of this legislation, because we're all sensitive to our constituents. And so that's part of it. And when I was talking to Representative Williams, one of the things that bothers me that we were reminded of, some of these people are so insensitive and bold that they'll have on their website that Section 8 don't even apply. That's sad, that they're that bold with their discrimination. And so these are reasons why we have to stand up. But it's good old-fashioned lobbying to get the point across. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll take additional questions to the side.